In 1932, Australia went to war with emus. Yes, with birds, and they somehow lost. Some might say that was the biggest defeat in their country's history, while others might say it was the 2-1 loss to the US men's national team this Tuesday. Now, after learning that Australia lost a battle to birds while their army or their military had like machine guns, I can no longer see them the same way. But we're not here to talk about that today, because the US men's national team just defeated Australia 2-1 in a friendly as we prepare for the 2026 World Cup. And with that said, what did we learn? Hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV. And welcome to the 7 Things We Learned series, where every single day following a US men's national team game, we tell you 7 things that we learned. Now listen, I am tired. I am very tired. I am definitely more tired than I have ever been. I've been up for like 30 hours, and this may come as a surprise to you, but 30 hours, that's like more than a day. But it's less than 2 days. So let's cut the crap and go right to it. Later this week, we're going to have the full camp recap with USMNT Stan Adam. That's a very long episode that we recap the entire camp. And this video is brought to you by SoRare. If you watch the NBA, actually, the season's coming up and you're going to want to use the link in the description. But more on that later. Let's roll the intro and let's start with lesson number 1. Okay, lesson number 1. Now, before I even talk about lesson number 1, I'm going to ask you, because I didn't in the introduction to this video, to hit the like button, help us hit 1,000 likes in this video, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Now, lesson number 1 is this was a very good win against Australia. That was a very good win, and do not let anyone downplay it. Look, Australia is a very tough opponent to beat. We saw that in the 2022 World Cup. They got out of their group. Argentina struggled against them, but obviously that was many years ago. Right now, Australia, coming into this game, they were on a 7-game winning streak. They beat Japan, they beat Saudi Arabia, they beat Canada a few days ago. This was a very much needed win for the US national team, and it was an overall good camp. Not perfect, but good. However, my point here on lesson number 1 is this was no small accomplishment. It's not something crazy, right? We didn't really defeat like Argentina or France, but we defeated a very tough opponent. This was a very good win, and you guys know I'm known as a professional hater, so usually I go more towards the negative side, but not today. Lesson number 2, and it's also not just about this game, it's almost the overall camp. It's that our offense looked better, and our defense actually looked a bit shaky. Let's put it this way. We played Ecuador and Australia. These are 2 teams that are not known for scoring a lot of goals, but they're also not known for conceding a lot of goals. And here's the thing. We scored versus teams that most don't score against, but we also conceded against teams that most don't. Our goals were actually good plays. Right, go back to the goal against Ecuador, for example, with Balogun. Nice little pass from Tessman, right? And then the ball eventually gets to Balogun off a cross from Tillman. That was not an easy goal. Now, Ecuador was a mistake from Aiden Morris, a bad press. Chris Richards was left in isolation, and then Ener Valencia was able to beat him. This goal, like the one we conceded against Australia, was off a throw-in. But then the one we scored, like the first one, for example, was a wonderful play where Chris Richards steals the ball, finds McKennie very quickly. McKennie finds Roldan. Roldan finds Haji, and Haji scores. Our goals were almost like a work of art, while the opponent's goals were mostly silly mistakes from our end. Now, that's not too concerning to me because you can kind of like fix the defense more with tactics and certain players that we're going to bring in, like Tyler Adams, for example. Maybe don't play too much of a high line. Don't have the 2 center backs in the back 3 push too high up the field to leave Chris Richards isolated. Well, offense, usually you kind of have it or not. Like if the players suck, it doesn't matter what tactics you select, the offense will suck. The defense, we can adjust. So this is not really a negative lesson or a positive lesson. It's just something we learned. It's kind of neutral. But yes, the offense overall, I thought it looked good. We didn't only create chances from crosses. We also created through the middle. We created in transition. I thought we played well on offense, but the defense was shaky in multiple occasions. Lesson number 3. We need to do more of what we did against Australia, against any opponent. And what do I mean by that? Quick transitions. If you look at both goals that we scored, it was when Australia was switching from one phase of play to the other. The first goal, Chris Richards steals the ball, finds McKennie. McKennie finds Roldan. Roldan finds Haji. Haji scores. Super quick transition. They're caught off guard. Why? Because a team is the most vulnerable when they're switching from one phase of play to the other. The other goal we scored, it was a moment that Australia was attacking us. We kind of stole the ball, and I can't remember who got fouled. And then Roldan just got the ball and quickly sent it to Haji, and we caught them off guard. I don't think the U.S. national team is good enough to get the ball, build up slow, let the opponent set up the defense, and kind of disorganize them with the ball. We're good in quick transitions, and that's how we should try to score most of our goals, right? We're not Spain. We're not Argentina that has that many world-class players that can just quickly in one play change the whole game. But we can be very dangerous in transition, like we were against Australia. Catch them when they're the most vulnerable, which is when they're switching from one phase of play to the other. Now, before we continue, a quick word from the sponsor of this video, SoRare. If you want to play SoRare, the link will be in the description. And while we're playing the ad, make sure to pay attention and drop a like in this video. We're going to go very soon to lesson number 4. So, the NBA season is going to start very soon. And SoRare actually also has NBA virtual cards. They don't only have the soccer leagues. And with the season starting soon, what are you waiting for? Unlike other fantasy games where it's pay per play, in SoRare, you pay to get the players you want permanently as virtual cards. And then you can play multiple times using those cards, at least until the player retires. You can win real money, sign jerseys, game tickets, and much more. And if you're new to SoRare, you can sign up with the link in the description of this video, and you will get a special offer of 50% off your first few purchases, valid up to purchases of $300. Essentially a one-time $150 welcome bonus. Thank you very much, SoRare. Link will be in the description of this video, and could be fun to play some NBA games on SoRare. All right, lesson number 4, and it's about James Sands. I thought he was very meh. It was kind of the same James Sands that I remember from Major League Soccer. Now, he's playing the Bundesliga, and I heard he's doing well in St. Pauli. I cover these players every single week, but I only caught one game from James Sands in the Bundesliga this season. The game I watched, he didn't play well. I believe it was the one against Bayer Leverkusen that Tillman was also playing. Now, mind you, I don't want to judge him based on this one USMNT performance because he hasn't been in camp for a long time. But for this game, he struggled to progress the ball forward. Defensively, he was at fault in the goal we conceded. Him and Roldan were mainly the two guys that made the mistake that led to the goal that we conceded. So overall, it wasn't a good performance from Sands. And just because you're in the Bundesliga doesn't mean you're at the Bundesliga level. Now, I'll make an effort to watch him more. I want to get more data and see Sands playing in the Bundesliga. And maybe he gets another shot in November with Pochettino, maybe not. But for this specific game, kind of looked like the same James Sands that I remember. Lesson number 5. Ajiman's days with the U.S. men's national team might be coming to an end. He got 0 minutes the entire camp. On top of that, we didn't have Pepe. So once Pepe's back, he's definitely ahead of Ajiman. That pushes him out. And if you keep adding more stuff that happened, like Balogun scored in the first game and was actually quite good. Haji Wright had a brace in the second game. Ajiman has definitely fallen off the depth chart. And you might be saying, well, how do you know he was ahead of Haji? Well, in the Gold Cup, when we had Haji Wright, even in the summer, like the 2 friendlies and everything, Ajiman was starting even before Haji got injured and was sent home from the Gold Cup. So it is fair to assume that Ajiman was ahead of Haji Wright not so long ago in Pochettino's depth chart. But that's clearly not the case. Haji played both games. Balogun played both games. Ajiman got 0 minutes. Balogun scored. Haji scored. And I'm also assuming Ricardo Pepi is ahead of Ajiman. So his days with the U.S. national team are probably coming to an end, as it should be. Right, I think that's a good thing, but that's something that we learned this camp. I thought Ajiman was going to play, and he didn't play at all. Lesson number 6 is about, of course, CR6, Christian Roldan. How could I not talk about him? He just had his best U.S. men's national team performance of all time, right? He's a late bloomer. You can't stop him. You can only contain him. Okay, jokes aside, Roldan had a very good game. Up to the 30th minute, he wasn't playing well, and he was at fault. He was one of the players at fault for the goal we conceded. But he got 2 wonderful assists. He had 2 shots from long range that were actually pretty good shots, even though he missed the target. And after the assist that he got for Haji Wright's first goal, he played well this game. He had a good performance. Now, let's not become prisoners of the moment where one player does well in one game and we're like, all of a sudden, he's like, he deserves to be there. He's the greatest thing ever. Matthew Hoppe had a hat trick, right? He scored a hat trick in the Bundesliga. So, and how did that turn out after, right? One performance. Roldan's performances for the U.S. men's national team in what, like 40 caps almost? They've been mostly poop, mostly bad. Not this one. This one was great. But we've seen also players put a good performance here and there for the national team and prove later on that they were not at that level. Jesus Ferreira, Kellen Acosta in the last cycle, for example, right? When push came to shove in the World Cup, they looked out of their depth. And I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. If Roldan plays in the World Cup, I think he'll be in the roster. Pochettino likes him because of a lot of the off-the-field things. And then today, or when this game happened, he actually performed well. I think if he does play in the World Cup, he will look out of his depth. That's my concern. Now, if he does go to the World Cup, I hope I'm wrong because I want and I need the U.S. men's national team to go far. But that's my concern when people start hyping Roldan because of one good performance for the U.S. men's national team in multiple years. It's when push comes to shove, I don't think he'll deliver. Now, with that said, let's see how he does in November because very often fans are very reactionary. So he played well here. And then if he stinks the bed against Uruguay and Paraguay next month, everyone's going to say he's crap, right? And the truth is somewhere in between. He's definitely not a crap player, but definitely not a good player, in my opinion, at least for the U.S. men's national team standard. But regardless, as I said in the post-game at 11 Yanks, this was a very good performance from Roldan. He deserves all the praise in the world, and he's a big reason why we won this game. Lesson number 7 is a quick one. The change in attitude is the biggest positive of this camp. This team actually had a fight in them. They had grit. They had desire to play for the national team, something we have lacked since probably late 2023, right? When Berhalter came back and even the first 12 months of Pochettino. This looked like a team that actually cared about the U.S. men's national team, that actually cared about the United States, right? This was a U.S. men's national team that would make you proud. Now, it wasn't always pretty, but they got the job done and they were fighting for each other. The change in body language, all of that was very noticeable. If you've been following the U.S. men's national team closely for quite some time, you saw it. Now, sure, like I said, it wasn't pretty, especially the Australia game. I don't think we played very well, but the attitude of this team was very good and much different from what we've seen, which means Pochettino might, just might, be actually changing the culture of this team, which was a big issue based on what Berhalter left him. And he kind of made that post on Instagram that we saw in his stories. I think that was directed to the culture that he inherited from Greg Berhalter. So the biggest positive of this camp is the change in attitude, body language from the players themselves. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go. And thank you, SoRare, for sponsoring this video. Okay, that's all for today. We have another video coming out later this week, which is the full camp recap, which is much longer. And we have a guest. We have Adam. I need to go to sleep now. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.